Hope everyone is doing good. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, sure appreciate you stopping in. Appreciate everybody's support. Guys, today we're out on the home farm here in central Kentucky. Had a spot that probably looked familiar that we call Copperhead Road. That was the blind that my son was in, where he shot his buck that we called Frank this year, and out in the food plot and ran down, jumped on the transition, and that's where the video was when we found him. Copperhead Road stand, guys, has been very, very good to us since we've been here. This is where I shot Atlas out of that locust right there behind that cedar. That's where I missed the buck that I called Bus, that I later shot with my gun. Passed up a lot of good bucks right here. And so today's video, guys, is this. I want to go over something, not so much on what to do with your invasives, maybe more so of a what not to do with your invasives. But there is I believe there's a piece of the puzzle that needs to be talked about. I see a lot of folks jumping on a bandwagon, if you will, and saying every invasive on my property needs to die. So let's talk about that. I'm all for that if it's in the right spot. But today's video, guys, is talking about just that. We're going to cover this spot right here, that stand that I call the Copperhead Road stand. And what we've got right here represents that topic very well. Guys, this whole slope right here, so before I finish this year, that access right there is an old logging road that comes down from where I park out by the road and walk in. That's how I was getting in, and I mean, I had the stealthy, I've got a trail that's 45'd in the back of that. This year, I had the mulcher here, Mark put a hole down there for me, sneaky trail in the back door, and that is going to be way better because you can see what's in front of it. A lot of canopy extraction logging that was done 5 years ago, a bunch of walnuts and stuff that came out of here, and it's woolly down here. But behind that stand, as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but that whole access point is full of invasives. Why aren't the invasives gone? Big point I want to stress, folks. Like I said, yes, I understand the want to get rid of invasives. But before you just start going in and you get rid of invasives, you have to look at the big picture. The big picture there is the invasives in that area where my access is actually the second story or third canopy, if you will. There's no deer habitat up there right now. I've got a little bit of debris on the ground. I'm even going to clean up a little bit just so nothing does try to bed in it. But the point is this. You go in and you start taking all your invasives down just because invasives are the devil, let's say, right? Because you've been told that. And now all of a sudden you've perforated a portion of X canopy, whether that's the highest canopy, whether that's a third story or a second story, whatever that is, right? What happens is now you've got problems because you let sunlight to the forest floor, but don't just cut them even and leave them on the ground because it's structure. All it takes is one top. You know, folks say, well, there's no food. I didn't hinge cut it, so there's no deer there. Well, guys, what you've done is if you let sunlight into that spot, you've put that top there like we do when we're reclaiming an upland setting, let's say, and it becomes a seclusion cage. I mean, that happens out here. You can see these hinges over my head right here. I could walk you to the end of those right here, in there where there's bedding built around them, and they're woolly around the tops because the top acts as a seclusion cage. Those are meant for food, but it's the same thing that happens. This time of the year, busy time of the year for the business, and what I see time and time again, sadly, walk into a spot and folks start telling me, or I see a video or whatever that case is of, yep, I'm removing all of these. This is an inferior tree, that's inferior. And I can pick that stuff out, guys, and I know the trouble before we even get to the point of the stand. And the reason is you're going through taking all this junk stuff out that you said in your TSI treatment, right? Because you're trying to get bigger, beautiful timber, and you're taking all this invasives out. All of a sudden, then you're like, okay, now this is my tree stand. So then I always say to myself, or I say to my client, how are you going to keep deer out of behind your location now? Well, they won't bed in there because I've got hinges here. Well, that's not the truth. So what I do to that? The answer is don't do anything to it, or you have to go and make it a complete park effect. You have to take, when you do take the invasives out, you have to treat them, drag them out, something that looks like a park. And that's sadly not what people do. They just leave the debris on the ground, treat the stump maybe or something, and perforate the canopy, and now you've got a problem. Perfect example. Multiflora rose, there is a couple walnut stumps in there that we cut out. That stand got put there, had to make that shooting lane, and you can see, so I've trimmed that, well, I trim it every year, but that's been trimmed probably 4 times in 5 years, and look how woolly that is because the sun is just feeding it. That's why this is so woolly. So, you know, kind of as a rant, but as a learning curve as well, more so of a learning portion for you guys is just, there's just so much of this information that folks don't think about who's listening to this stuff. And folks that don't understand, at no fault of your own, but just folks don't understand, should I think of this another way just because so-and-so said to remove my invasives, or so-and-so said to hack and squirt all my trees that have forks in them, or all this stuff. Yeah, I agree with you. But where are you doing it? That's the problem that I'm seeing all over the country. And then when I get there, we can't get to our tree stands because we're blowing all the deer out. Well, that's why. TSI areas, guys, you either have to leave alone, don't do anything to them when it comes to hunting side. That's your access. So you have 2 options. Let's go over that real quick. Your 2 options on your TSI, your outer rim, if you have all exterior access. You have 2 options. You either make it a park effect. Don't do anything to it. Let it choke itself off so bad that there is no mature timber, nastiness, whatever. And so there's no deer value to it. The other side of it is you have to treat it like a park, and you have to make sure there's nothing in there on the forest floor, stuff like that. But here we go again. I'm seeing guys in those areas do a burn. Well, such and such said all over the country, but especially let's just use the Southeast as an example. No, I'm not picking on the Southeast. I'm just using it as an example. So-and-so said to burn this area, okay? It's loblolly pine. You're burning it, you're stimulating growth, now you got to walk through it. So what would I do with it? If you own it, I would let it choke itself off. I wouldn't let anything grow in it. I would let the mature pines grow, and you could shoot 300 yards each way because I don't want any deer into it until I get to the stand. The example that I share with my clients is this, guys. The exercise that you need to do is you need to get a hunting buddy or a non-hunter or your wife or whatever, and take the side-by-side or take a walk down your access like you'd be going down your fence line going to your tree stand. And when you're on your fence line and you're looking in, you should be showing them the property, and they should say, man, that's big, beautiful timber. Then you know there's no deer habitat in it. Then when you get to your tree stand, whether they're a deer hunter or not, they should say, wow, that looks awesome. I can see deer bedding in there. I can see native grasses. I can see hinge cuts. It's thick. It's thicker in there than it is the outside. something like that, right? There has to be a defined line between where am I putting deer, why am I putting the deer there, and how am I getting in and out of these stands. That box blind, guys, that you keep seeing in the background, that's all switchgrass up behind it. And then out the back corner out in there is the 4-acre field, and I'm hunting it on this wind that's going back towards my access, so that's all switchgrass up there. Awesome access, right? I don't have to worry about walking down a fence line to get to that. This is in the timber. I got to drop down. No, I'm not doing any hinge cuts in there. No, I'm not taking any invasives out. No, I'm not making that just because so-and-so said to hack and squirt it. I'm not doing any of that in there because I have to access that. So, is an invasive always a bad thing? No, because it can work to your favor when we're talking about choking habitat off or making a spot where there's no deer habitat. So I guess, guys, when a lot of my videos that I just talk about invasives don't ever get a lot of views because no one wants to listen to what you do with invasives. But this is a very important invasive video because I'm telling you what you need to do or not do with them on a hunting strategy or an access side. I don't know what that number is, guys, that I get to on properties that I see a year, but you'd be shocked on how many farms I get to that as soon as I come off the fence row and we start walking to where a possible stand location may be, it takes me about 5 seconds to know we're in trouble because I see hack marks all over these inferior trees, invasive species, whatever that might be. And I'm looking at, okay, when these things die, if they haven't already, we're in serious trouble. So just think about placement, purpose, and tree species, application, all this stuff goes in. So I'm not saying I'm the only one that you need to tell you this, but if you want to learn these other strategies and how important stuff is, guys, and how we go in depth on more whiteboard talk sometimes or really in depth longer videos, encourage you, if it's not for everyone, but if you're looking to be involved in a private learning community, something that you can, you believe in my systems, and we're growing that community, and we welcome you there. Like I said, it's not for everybody. It is a paid prescription or a paid subscription. But guys, there's a lot of stuff on there that I've done. Learned from the school of hard knocks, folks that are on there. Some of those are my clients that they've tried stuff, and it's like, don't do that because you're going to get yourself in trouble. Example is there was a gentleman on there the other day that started talking about a certain situation that he was going to do to his farm, and I just labeled it red flags. It was like, red flags start flying everywhere. Stop. Don't do that. I've been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, tried that, doesn't work. I'll get you there quicker. Don't do this, do this. Bam, cured the problem. Now he's off to better, quicker, more proficient success. So the goal is to go forward, right? Always be moving forward, process or progress, let's say. If you go into an area on an access and get yourself in trouble because you just were told invasives are horrible, right? Honeysuckle, you can see honeysuckle right there. Horrible, cut it out. I could technically take that one out because it is in front of the stand, but I'm not because it's camouflage. All the way up through there, bush honeysuckle, nasty, invasive, get rid of it. Don't get rid of it there because you don't want sunlight there. You want that shade to always be there plus some. And if we turn around, this is what your deer habitat needs to look like. Full of woody browse at head height. Shade, no deer, full of invasives. Sunlight, full of sunlight. Even got a trail plot in there now. Bedding, sunlight, no invasives or less invasives. I've even treated some invasives in there, but that's where I want my deer to bed. Hope this one helps, folks. Like I said, I try not to do rants anymore. I try to do more educational, and the older I get, I hope this is showing. I try to get to the point quicker. I'm trying to do more informational videos, and this is just one that I see a lot, guys. And I sadly, I think It's not, sadly, it's not the landowner's fault. I just see a lot of this that somebody was told to do that, or somebody told them to do that. Some video taught them to do that. Not the cure, right? That improper learn or teaching point that you were taught is going to create you a bunch of work. Maybe not right now, maybe a year from now. Time is money, and you're going backwards, and it's going to cost you a bunch of time, because if you do take invasives out of the wrong area and you let daylight in, and now you can't get to your tree stands, now you got a problem. Now you've got a bunch of work, a bunch of mulching, a bunch of something to put it back into a park-like effect to make no deer habitat there. Hours, possibly hours and hours and hours. So I'm all about the invasive removal, like I said, guys. On a closing note, all about it. I agree. There should be way more stuff that we can do, way better groceries growing than an invasive. I've got Osage orange, I've got locust, I've got honeysuckle, I've got all this stuff. And I agree, I don't want it in my bedding areas, right? But if it's the only thing in my bedding areas, I'm not taking it completely out until there's something else there. Autumn olive, right? Take all your autumn olive out. Well, what if you take it all out and there's nothing else there? You got to wait, leave it in clumps a little bit maybe. Don't take it all out, maybe only take 50% of it out. But it's just easy to say invasives are bad and they need to go. Not always the truth. Thanks, guys.